You are now listening to Alberta Radio, bringing you the best news, music, and commentaries. Here's your host, Jason LaFace.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Alberta Radio. I'm your host, Jay LaFosse. And starting off the show is one of my own productions, Elbows Down, Ass Up, just to mock the Liberals and those who have destroyed this country. Here we go. Here on Alberta Radio.
Yeah. Elbows down, ass up. Say it loud, never back up. Elbows down, elbows down. Yeah, elbows down, ass up. Dressed as clowns, acting tough. Talking big with your mask up. Keyboard freaks never match us. Elbows down, ass up. All your problems, you blame Trump. Blocked us online with your bullshit. Chasing kids with queens, fucking pedo shit. You quote books you never read past page 2. Copy paste text, call it a peer review. Marching in the streets for your fake coup. You cosplay terrorists in the rainbow crew. You cry for equal rights, but it's just for you. Burning our national flag, you fuck you too. Your protests are funded by globalists, only to sympathize with terrorists. Now hating the people with the giddy up crew, always foreign issues, they don't care about you. Yeah, elbows down, ass up. Dressed as clowns, acting tough. Talking beat with your mask up. Keyboard freaks never match us. Yeah, elbows down, ass up. All your problems, you blame Trump. Doxed us online with your bullshit. Chasing kids with queens, fucking pedo shit. You want plans where the math don't add up. Promising free drugs while the bodies pile up. Dressed to state with they offer maize, while sending the billions off to Ukraine. You so love that greed while everyone tense up. Freezing in the cold, waiting to amputate up. You say love wins, yeah, you spit your twist. If anyone doubts you, we're all fascists. The brainwashed minds by the liberal lies. What will it take to awaken your minds? Yeah. Elbows down, ass up. Dressed as clowns, acting tough. Talking big with your mask up. Keyboard freaks never match us. Yeah. Elbows down, ass up. All your problems, you blame Trump. Doxed us online with your bullshit. Chasing kids with queens, fucking pedo shit. Hands out, down out. Big plans, small crowd. You want the crown, skip the climb. What now when the lights go down? You just log out. Elbows down, ass up. Dressed as clowns, acting tough. Talking big with your mask up. Keyboard freaks never match us. Elbows down, ass up. All your problems, you blame Trump. Doxed us online with your bullshit. Chasing kids with queens, fucking pedo shit.
This is one of my new tracks, remixed by Jarhead. I hope you enjoy. This is an ID track, not named yet, remixed by Jarhead, produced by myself. Hope you enjoy. Oh yeah. All right, so let's talk about the topics we got up for discussion today. I think we're gonna start with our challenge to the chief at Kamloops First Nations, and it's in regards to the 215 bodies that are apparently in a grave, unmarked grave, that millions of Canadian tax dollars have been funneled through for this initiative. Now, this has been an ongoing issue. We've had multiple reserves. I'm finding out in the last couple days that multiple reserves around Canada have, in fact, started either went through with an exhumation and found nothing, and there are a couple others that are looking at doing it. Now, the chief of First Nations out in BC, with the 215 kids in Kamloops, she's trying to state that it's going to take 20 years before they put a shovel on the ground to find out if there's any bodies there. And it's going to cost millions for education, and they want a law passed to put people who deny the atrocities in jail. Now, before we start writing laws and dumping more money and throwing it at the burning fire, wouldn't it be nice to put that fire out for a minute and just see exactly what's going on in that pit? Because I'll tell you, Pine Creek First Nations, they found nothing, right? And there's a couple other ones. I'm going to bring this up right now. We've had people message us, and you know, it's unbelievable the amount of stuff that we're finding out right now. All right, so Williams Lake, where Whitney Spearing used 43 anomalies found in a cemetery to inflate the numbers to 93 at the Williams Lake Band in St. Joseph site. Oddly, when she was then made president of the British Columbia Association of Professional Archaeologists. So this is the reason why there's a cover-up. The person who states with a GPR that there's bodies in the ground, and then the other reserves are finding that there's no bodies, well, they give her the head of archaeology. So then think about it now. Who's going to sign off on the jobs, right? For archaeological digs and stuff. It's going to be her, the person who did the GPR, the person who's making false claims, the person who's getting not only a salary by the British Columbia government, but also side change from the Liberal Party of Canada and the NDP to continue this charade. The solution for this divide that's ripped the fabric of our collective in half, the solution is simple. Put a shovel in the ground and dig. Let's find out if the body's there. If there's bodies, then we can all apologize, all get on the same page, stay united. And it works. If there is no bodies, then we are owed an apology for the lie and the charade, and people want their money back. Now, when we look at this whole debacle with First Nations is under heavy scrutiny right now, simply because of the billions of dollars been given to them. And it's always, when you look at the context of how they're getting the money, it's historical guilt shaming. Now, when we look at other countries in this context, Do we see anything similar? There are similar things. Germany's paying retribution for World War II still to this day. They've paid off the major debt that they owed for the First World War and Second World War, but they still have a fund set up where they help the families, and they also have a foundation for the Jewish community. Now, in Canada, it's just been a bankrolled, here you go. You get treaty payments, you get free coverage, you get all this, like everything, versus an average Canadian. When you look at how much programs and services are offered for free to First Nations in comparison to the Canadians who are bankrolling the bill, I mean, when does it end? Are we going to continuously force Canadians and force the country to pay First Nations for the next 100 years for the atrocities of the past? I don't think so. It has to stop, especially when there's corruption. You got chiefs out there, okay, you have reservations where you've had corrupt band councils, you have rotating chiefs that are friends and families who've been the band council and chief for, decades, and millions of dollars going into the reservations. But you look at the condition of the res, and the people are not being helped. There's no, you know what I mean? So what's going on? I mean, we still have reservations with boil water advisories. How does that happen in Canada in this current day and age? You know what I mean? It makes no sense. So you have to look at where's the money going, who's doing what with it. And, when you have some reserves that, they don't, they're not taking incentives from the federal government. They're self-governing themselves and putting the money back into the reserves. I mean, there's a few of them in Ontario doing a great job at doing that. And not every reserve is guilty of corruption. Just want to make that clear. But we're finding out that there's more and more, and it's a lot of money. Now, if I was one of these individuals, a regular Canadian who took the money in and ran with it and did whatever and embezzled it and laundered it or whatever you did with it and never helped your people, well, you would be all over public media and potentially looking at jail time in court, right? But First Nation chiefs, they're out there right now saying that, well, we don't have to pay it back. There's a whole big debacle about COVID even, right? One of the chiefs took a whole whackload of money and we're not paying it back. We don't pay it back. We didn't know. This, you know what I mean? This game where it just seems like, everything that my parents told me when I was a kid, when I'd get punished, to learn not to do the same thing again. Sometimes you have to get a beating twice. But, when you look at some of the things today and you say to yourself, my parents taught me this when I was 3-4 years old, not to do these things, and here we have grown adults that are now playing the excuse of, oh, I didn't know and we shouldn't. What is this? Are you two? You're grown adults. You have people that depend on you. But then with all of that, with First Nations, it brings me back to the whole Every Child Matters. The Every Child Matters campaign was put together by an awesome woman in BC. And she's also a residential school survivor, and she has a story to tell because she went through the abuse. And not everybody went through the abuse. Just want to, we have to mention that here. Not all these residential schools are guilty of the same thing. But for those that are, right, the individual who started the Every Child Matters campaign, she had a great story, and it was Phyllis Webstad of the Northern Shuswap, former residential school student, and she started the movement from her experience in 1973. And the reason behind the story for Every Child Matters and the orange shirts is that she states that her new orange shirt was taken away on her first day at St. Joseph Mission Residential School in BC. The story is at 6 years old, Webstad's grandmother bought her a shiny orange shirt for school where it was immediately confiscated, making her feel like she did not matter. The movement launched in 2013 during a reunion event where Webstad shared her story to raise awareness of the residential school experience. The significance of this is used to honor survivors and victims, bringing awareness to the no matter what value of every child, say SaveTheChildren.ca, Orange Shirt Society, and Webstat found the Orange Shirt Society, which manages the movement. As mentioned, is that She Has Sad newspaper article that wrote about it. Now, the significance behind the Every Child Matters is the fact that we honor survivors and victims, bringing awareness to the no matter what value every child. And now First Nations has taken a really strong role on this, using the residential schools and that. But I want to point out a key factor about Webstat and the ECM movement. Now, at this reunion in 2013, NDP MLAs, MPs, and staffers were at this reunion. And the NDP came up with the idea to blitz it across the country in conjunction to work with the Liberals and to bring accountability and to bring this whole thing to the forefront once again. Now, there's a lot of people who say, I never heard about residential schools. Well, I don't know what to say to that, because when I was growing up, I'm 51 years old. When I was growing up, we got taught that in school. We were fully aware of the residential school system and how it was rolled out. We weren't told about the atrocities, though. Now, my father and his brothers, they were put into these schools, and I asked my dad one day about it, and my dad told me a completely different story. He told me that some schools did have abuse, but his school didn't. His was like many others, he said, that the kids wanted to go to these schools because their communities couldn't offer the sports programs or education programs and woodworking and other things, cooking, stuff like that, right? Learning some skills. But most importantly for my dad and his brothers was hockey, right? Just like other stories I've heard from other residential schools where students, they enjoyed going to these schools. But the ones that are apparently guilty of atrocities, well, of course, it needs to be said, and First Nations people, they went through hell and back. I will admit that. I mean, I'm Métis, and it's part of my culture and part of my tradition. I know the history and the oral history that's been brought down to my family and to me. But at the same time, it's not every school that was hit like that. You know what I mean? So we have to tell the truth. But instead of, amplifying the truth, they amplify a lie by adding lies to the truth, by distorting the truth for what it is, by silencing it, creating their own narrative. So when Trudeau found out about this, well, of course the Liberals, they wanted to throw money at it. Trudeau needed something to prop up because during his election campaign, he went to First Nations, and again, he made promises that were never fulfilled. But with that said, the NDP worked collectively with Webstat and Shuswap First Nations with other, and Kamloops and that. And then they decided, well, let's get the GPRs in place. And that was a suggestion brought in by the Trudeau government to these people because nobody even thought about it before. The claim is that they have historical records stating that there's bodies in the ground, but there is no historical records anywhere. They have a registry of students who went to the school. And what's interesting is no families have come forward to claim any missing children. So it's not denying anything. It's simply asking for the truth. When a GPR is not accurate, and so far all the places that did dig up their graves found nothing, then it's safe to say or assume that there'll be potentially nothing in Kamloops. They've taken the majority share of funds going in through the program for reconciliation, truth and reconciliation, with no results, no answers. So it's like saying to a thief, here, just take all my money and I'll ask you what you're doing with it later, and you can do whatever you want with it, and I'll expect you to lie too, and that's okay, and don't worry about it. I'll cover you, right? Like the psychology behind it is just, it's completely ridiculous. But I want this challenge to go through. So I put a post up on Facebook, Twitter, or Facebook X, TikTok, and Instagram. And the video is going viral on X. It's doing pretty good on Facebook too. And I am challenging the chief on this issue. Chief Roseanne Casimir, I'm challenging you to talk to your people in the next couple months to set a date for July to start digging in the ground. There's no reason why you can't do this. There's absolutely no reason. You can use whatever excuse you want, but there is none, because we have had other First Nations who went and did it. So why are you a special case where you cannot do the job to get the truth? Is there a price tag on the lives of others? Is there a price tag on the truth? I thought the truth was supposed to be free, and I thought survivors demanded free answers for those who potentially may have lost someone, right? So that's where we're at, and I hope that challenge is accepted, but we expect it not to be, because they'll make up some excuse, or maybe even chastise and dox us online with some nonsense. But I'm tired of seeing professors who I respect get assaulted. I'm tired of seeing politicians who I respect who are calling this out, Dallas Brody and Francis Whittison and others. This has to stop, right? It has to stop. So that's my challenge. I want answers, just like every other Canadian. All right, so we're going to play some more music. So part of the Alberta Radio is to play music, and all I'm doing is playing my own music. Nobody else's right now. I do have some music coming in from Derek Collier and some few others that I'll be putting up. Same thing with Sam. I'll be getting some of his stuff. We'll be putting that up on, and I'll be presenting that in our upcoming podcast. And we're going to try to make an emphasis on getting our podcasts on regular distribution, through the week, because I've been slacking. I've been busy with a lot of other things, and I let the podcast slide, working on other stuff because I'm a one-man show. But I just started bringing in some new mods on our socials to help me alleviate some stuff for me so I can get things done. And now we're back at doing podcasts. So like I said, you can follow us on Spotify. That's where our podcasts are published. We push it through Podbean, and then we'll be able to have it on every social platform. So after this is all said and done and pumped up to Spotify, we will upload it to YouTube with maybe an animated picture or something like that, because it's audio. We don't do the video podcasts. So with that said, I want to feature some music. So back in 2008, 9, and 10, 8, 9, and 10, I had Omerta Records, and actually Omerta Records is still alive. We just shelved it for a while, but Omerta Records is a label I own. It's an EDM trance house label that I own, and I have over 400 artists on it. I fired all the Canadian artists because we only took on a couple. We only had, I think, 3 artists from Canada, and all 3 had this ego-inflated attitude where they think they're millionaires and they're owed money when they're not, right? So digital sales isn't something I'm really interested in, and it's something, regardless, when we put it on the label, there's an agreement with the artists that you get your set and the label takes a set. And we send the reports out, and that's what we did. And even with the reports shown, we just, it's never good enough. So I will say this: out of all the artists that we still have on our label, we have artists from all over Europe, mostly Europe. We have a couple out of the States, and we shelved the label for a while. So now everything's coming back, and COVID's over, and a lot of us are talking again. I've had music sitting in production mode for 15 years. 15 years, folks. And recently, in the last month, I got a bunch of music finished. Like, I've been working hard trying to finish up tracks just to get them out, even if I'm not selling them. But the point is to be able to provide my own podcast with my own music that is good for people to listen to, and I don't have to get hit with royalty hits anymore, right? Because it's my music. So if you're an artist out there and you own your own music and you're not distroed on a label or anything like that, and you're in full control of your music, and you want me to play it or want it on rotation on Alberta Radio, you can email me your 320 kps MP3 files with artwork and a bio, and email me that to jason@albertaradio.ca. So the newest track that we just finished up is a track that I just remixed and reworked. This is Thomas Decolita with Amira Ali from Dubai, and this is called Lost Yourself. So this is my late remix I was supposed to do in 2009 and 10. It never got done, but it just got done now. So it's a late kicker. Here you go on Alberta Radio. Lost Yourself by Amira Ali.
So now it burns. You took all the steps and paid. Put your eyes back every night, but they didn't get you through. If I fall for another chance, maybe we're not your words, but their silence. Your tears long for everything you never had. And I feel like I'm lost in myself, and I feel like I'm lost in myself, and I feel like I'm lost in myself.
Thomas Decolita, my rework, re-edit, remix featuring Amira Ali, Lost Yourself. All right, so it's the X moment. Let's go see what's on X. And, well, here's one. So Melissa Rogers on X, you can follow her, Melissa LM Rogers. So Michael May during a committee debate, basically downplayed, and the way I look at it, protected China, right, over the forced labor. And the Liberals aren't doing anything about it. But previously, back in the day, Canada would be harping about human rights issues in regards to forced labor like that. And China's heavily involved in forced labor. Same thing with most Asian countries. They'll use kids. They don't care. That's, So Michael May decided to confront another individual during the committee. I forgot her name. And she's worked with human rights about different issues. Michael May, basically how he undermined her was basically says to her, hey, well, did you see it for yourself? Did you witness it? Right? Rather than accepting the fact that there's a human rights complaint violation by China, and he's Chinese, and he's already been labeled a foreign, somebody who's potentially spying for China with espionage, and he's an MP, right? The guy walked the floor for the Conservatives and went over to the Liberals. Well, this is what's interesting about this. Now, Michael May joined Life Labs in January of 2019, became the Senior Vice President and CIO, Chief Information Officer. And then October 2019, right after, Life Labs suffered a massive data breach and had to pay a ransom, a class action settlement, and tried to keep the report private. Well, guess who the hackers were? Chinese hackers. And a lot of us are now starting to wonder, some of these corporations who've been involved with potential political these corporations are not directly involved, but it's who they bring on their board of directors. So these corporations will assign new board of directors, and sometimes they don't know if they're heavily affiliated with another country. And I believe right now what we're seeing in Canada is corporations being swindled by foreign interests. Here's an example. I used to work for Taco Bell and KFC a long time ago. I was the assistant manager. And all of us who were white, we all got laid off. And it was because Soul Foods bought Taco Bell chain and Taco Bell and the KFC. And what happened was it was bought by Mohammed, an East Indian. So what's Mohammed do? Well, he hires his own people, fires Canadians. But what happened? How did that happen? Well, to start the whole transition of the buy-off, new board of director members were appointed to those corporations and smoothed off the transition in less than 5 years for a buyout purchase, which then everybody lost their jobs. That happened in 2012, 13, this happened. So when you look at everything before Trudeau, they were pivoting for change. They were already positioning themselves to take over corporations. And you look at now, tell me one fast food place where it's majority of white Canadians or just French Canadians or Canadians, period. It's all foreign temporary workers at every place you go. Either they're Filipino, Middle East, South Asian, whatever, but they're not Canadian. And remember, Tim Hortons was prided as a Canadian home-based, homegrown business out of North Bay, Ontario. But now, today, it's a corporate conglomerate that's been hijacked by foreign interests and foreign globalists. That's your Canada. But that's on X right now on the first post I see, and I retweeted it. So this Life Labs paid off they paid off the ransom, which exposed 15 million customers in BC and Ontario. Their breach report was also, they were trying to keep it covered up, and they couldn't. So at least the truth is out. And then what else? Here we go. Alberta's NDP is warns of gerrymandering as new boundary map recommendations are released. Well, Nenshi's always complaining about everything. And then where we go? And then Francis Widdowson, countdown 60 days, continuing to suppress and cover up a crime against humanity. The discovery of a mass grave at Kamloops is a crime against humanity itself. Brendan Miller, who's a lawyer for the Council of Foster LLP. Now, it's true. I mean, if there's graves there, then why we haven't checked to see if there's actual graves, right? Frances has been doing a really good job advocating about this, and she's a professor. I respect her a lot. She may not like me, I don't know, but I do respect her for speaking the truth, because that's what this country has been always prided itself. Like all of us Canadians is on the principle of truth that matters to all Canadians. Kurt Lubinoff, Alberta NDP. Naheed's getting reamed on X right now. Nenshi, who's against Alberta's independence and rallies against it, attended a petting event with other NDP Muppets organized by the people who support foreign independence operation out of Canada, Kalakstanis. Right? Oh my God! It's no different too. So you have the Alberta NDP is crying foul about the citizen-led initiative for Alberta for a potential referendum for separation. Now it's okay for Quebec to do it, right? Now, Quebec Solidaire is a Quebec political party, which is a separatist group, and the NDP here in Alberta work closely with the Quebec Solidaire. And if you're wondering where the diversity, inclusion, equality, DEI program that went into the schools came from, well, it came from working with Quebec Solidaire on the endeavor of getting Equal Canada to push the DEI narrative into Alberta schools and throughout the province here. It's a separatist movement. It's a Quebec separatist ideology movement that's been brought to Alberta, and the NDP rolled it out. And the NDP work with separatists. So not only are they working with Quebec separatists, they're working with Kalakstani separatists who want to claim independence in our own province, and they're not even from Canada. They're trying to run some type of independence referendum, or trying to make a land claim in BC and say they want independence. No. But the NDP, Naheed Nenshi, with his $80,000, kickbacks and bribes and stuff as a mayor of Calgary, he sure loves siding with other separatists. That's the NDP. Needle, drugs, poverty, complete buffoons. I call them the no democracy party now, because they don't respect democracy. Jeffrey Rath. So Jeffrey Rath was at the Cornerstone Forum. He had a pleasure to sit down with Martin Armstrong, and Martin is a respected, predictive economist in the world. He agrees that Alberta will thrive as an independent country, and he thrives that with the elimination of all personal income tax and a flat 10% corporate tax will work for our province as a new nation. Wiretap Media, my buddy Eli. So he's been doing a lot of good work. So you guys should follow him at Wiretap Media on X and Facebook. Try and give him a good push on Facebook, because he just got on there. So we're try to get some more people to follow the page. But he does some really awesome reporting and coverage on different issues that's affecting Canadians. He's a center right, and is on point, calling out the nonsense. He even calls out the nonsense from our side, like he's fair. So I really respect Wiretap Media, and it's a media organization that I honestly would like to suggest to everybody they follow, right? So with him, he's got the report on the opiates. Now, according to addiction specialist Dr. Martin Jedson, Health Canada's harm reduction program is keeping people locked inside their addiction with no incentive for recovery. And that's the truth, because what they've done with the harm reduction is it's a huge racket. So you have these methadone, Suboxone clinics that are keeping everybody addicted at the max dosage. I know people who are on 10 years of methadone at 150 to 200 milligrams a day, getting blitzed out of their tree, or max dose on Suboxone. And if they tell their doctor that they want to quit all the substances and be clean, then the doctors threaten these patients and people who are suffering from addictions. So there is no help. The other thing he pointed out was the fact that the doctors, and government are poorly trained on the issue. they got doctors that have become drug dealers, and they're completely misinformed because they're pushing their so-called Trudeau safe supply of hydromorphs. And hydromorphs is crazy because that actually damages your nervous system, long use. And, if you keep using it, you're going to damage your nervous system as a side effect. But the point here I'm getting at is a lot of these people who are using hydromorphs to shoot up with, that's what they do. They're shooting it up. Now, hydromorph is, again, it's a drug that's created by Big Pharma and governed and licensed out by the Canadian government so that we can keep people high and get them more addicted. And at the same time that there's a safe supply, they got cities like Sudbury, Ontario, that has a population of 170,000 people pushing out 3 to 4 million needles a year for that population amount. Think about it. Did everybody in the city wake up and they start shoot up every day? Like, it's unbelievable what's going on in our country in different liberal NDP stronghold cities. And just the whole safe supply, which is Apotex, which the Shermans, they were murdered. I'm starting to wonder if this was all in connection to roll out this scam, and potentially that they were speaking up against it and it cost them their lives. That's my theory. Now, if it comes out later that that's what it was, well, you heard it from me first, right? But that's my opinion. I look at things and I read between the lines, and I've seen a lot of things in my life. So this kind of stuff it wouldn't surprise me that it happened, and that's what they did. And you look at the dynamics of our country right now. When they made hydromorphone legal as a safe supply drug, there was a big debacle going on in the States with Oxycontins and Percocets, right? So Canada recognized that and seen that, well, Big Pharma lost their bid in the States and they had to pay for the addictions that they created and all the atrocities and the loss of life. So there's a big, huge payout that had to go from the Sackler family to the people. And I don't think they paid it off yet. But still, the fact remains is that's what happened. And the Sackler family, Big Pharma, and these drug cartels, think about, I don't know how they convinced the FDA and the government, but apparently a lot of people got paid off. And Trudeau was one of them. Trudeau government was one of them. And instead of, doing something and bringing light to the fact that Oxys and Percocets were doing all this damage, they rolled out a safe supply of hydromorphs, and it just compounded the problem, right? And then look at today. That's exactly what you're seeing as a result of policy, and people they don't care about life. They say, they cry about Me Too and this and that and all this other stuff. It's just ridiculous. So another one, this one's from beautiful Canada. So breaking, Liberal MP Mark Gerritsen condemns Conservative MPs holding their Bibles during the vote on Bill 9 earlier this week, saying no religion should be used in the legislative process. Well, if religion is not allowed to be used in the legislative process, then you need to take religion out of the court system and say, well, are you going to swear in the Bible? And then on the same time, you might as well just nix religion entirely, because if it's not part of the legislature, then it shouldn't be part of the collective, right? Our country has been founded on Christian Judeo beliefs. Same thing with Parliament. You go in Parliament buildings, and right at the doorsteps, there's usually inscription of a scripture from the Bible. But the liberals, the new age fascists, little Nazis that invite Nazis into Parliament and sympathize with terrorists and allow the burning of our Canadian flag in our streets, and then planting Nazi flags on innocent Canadians and then beating them down for speaking up against the narrative. That's what Canada does here. You know what I mean? That's what Canada does. The liberals are they're pathetic. They'll harp about equal rights on one end and then can the rights of what matters the most, so they can rein in a bunch of new people into the country and replace you, right? And then build new mosques while they burn our Christian churches down. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So, it's X is interesting. I'll just say that much. Lately, it's been pretty crazy. Here's one. Breakaway Alberta. I'm also calling on Nenshi and the Alberta NDP to stop using the bigoted slur separatist to dehumanize and demonize Albertans who happen to be oriented to Alberta independence. Hate slurs have no doubt. And that's the thing, you know, like you got to remember Nenshi calls Albertans names all the time. What was it? Sewer rats, called us inbreds, you know what I mean? And rednecks and all this stuff. And then now he's, separatists. And Nenshi needs to resign or fired or go to jail, right? Get rid of this guy. What else? All right, so the Canadian government just released a statement which says it does not support the decision from the IOC to only permit women in women's competitive sports. Shameful. And this is from the Reclamer who just posted this. And it's like, this is the quasi Karen type, I don't know, cornflake, rainbow in your Lucky Charms sort of thing, Canada wokeness that we I'm just trying to lay it all on. But that's the country we're living in. We're living in a country that's run by, you know, pro-trans activists that want to chase your kids so they can mutilate them and, you know, and then glorify pedophilia. And, you know, I mean, like, it's so sickening. But, you know, let's have a man who transitions to a woman to beat a woman up in boxing or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm glad the Olympics in Alberta took a rule to ban that stuff. But the Liberal Party of Canada, they're mentally ill. All right, Jason Leving, if Alberta First Nations had a veto over Alberta independence, they wouldn't be needing. Yeah, exactly. If First Nations had a veto over Alberta independence, they wouldn't need to file an application for injunction or appeal to King Charles. The fact is they're just taking legal action, and on April 7, I expect the court to deny their injunction. Now, I expect the court to do its due diligence by denying the injunction because it should uphold the ruling of Elections Canada, because Elections Canada did put the question on the ballot, and if it would have been challenged or constitutional, something that breached the Constitution or any kind of thing like that, it wouldn't have been allowed. So it happened already. So the first question that Mitch Silvestri and the APP had put down got rejected. It broke three rule sets within the Constitution, the Clarity Act, and had to do with the treaty and the Charter of Rights. So he reworded it. Then when he reworded it, it gave ample time for Elections Canada to make sure what questions they would expect, to research to see if it broke any of these rule sets, and it didn't. So they moved forward and allowed it to move forward and confirmed that we were allowed to get signatures on the petition for the petition. So I went out. I got a few hundred signatures, and a few others. You know, and there's people that got over 1,000. Yet the chiefs, though, they seem to think that they own everything, but they don't. And if they had any validity, you know, Elections Canada would have said something. But instead, they brought it to court. The court is supposed to hear this injunction and motion, and we're supposed to find out what's going to happen. Now, I'm hoping that they uphold Election Alberta's decision to put the question on the ballot. It is a citizen-led initiative, which could potentially trigger a constitutional convention. Now, the Chiefs need to understand something. Go read your treaty. You don't own everything. My question to the Chiefs are simple as this. Are you going to tell people in Crown cities that work hard every day, that went out to the bank and got a loan, got a mortgage, bought a house, make payments on the cars, you know, do all this stuff, and it's the land that they bought, property they bought, you're going to say that you own that now? Well, if you do, then you can pay everybody's bills then, right? How's that? You can pay everybody's bills. You can start plowing the roads. You can start doing the infrastructure, and you can start, you know, doing all the work that the rest of us have to either do it ourselves or elect people to do it for us, right? So you don't own it. And this idea of guilt shaming by the same chiefs who are corrupt as hell, like the chiefs who are complaining right now about the Alberta independence are chiefs that are guilty of corruption. They're not taking care of the reserves that they represent. I mean, their own people are turning against them. But they want to go out there and cry wolf, right? So it's just, again, I'm just going to say this, they're paid off chiefs. Straight up, paid off. All right, so let's see here. Premier Smith says the independence question may be the only question counted on October 19th, 2026, during a one-on-one interview with Sean Newman at the Cornerstone event. Premier Daniel Smith stated that the independence question would be counted first, and only if it is defeated would the other questions be counted to provide a mandate for the following year. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, right? Elections Canada, again, confirms hundreds of voters abroad registered in error. You know, we know that the federal election, the last two federal elections have been rigged. We had, Elections Canada officials, volunteers who were driving around in a cab with the ballots, going home and bringing the ballot boxes home. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. Oh my God. Oh, and then here we go. Wab Canoe. Wab Canoe is on the forefront because Laura Babcock is, she likes men who beat women. Well, Wab Canoe was charged for drunk driving, and he also was involved in domestic assault. And the woman is finally, she's come out since 2017 about her story, and she's coming out again. So it's interesting. But Laura Babcock, she's one of those nut bar left wingers, and she props up terrorists. She props up fascists, Nazis. She props up Wab Canoe, who's a wife beater. Who knew Canoe? Just saying. Anyways, getting on back to the music, and then we'll end the show. It's been a blast today, everybody. I just want to say thank you. And don't forget, you can follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. YouTube, we're trying to build up their channel to get more subscribers so we can offer more as we go. But don't forget, you can definitely get our content off Spotify when it comes to the podcasts. And we ask that you, hit that little star on Spotify and give us a 5-star review or a 4-star, get us up there. We had we had to shut down all reviews on everything that we had because we were targeted by the LGBTQ community out of Ontario, who went and put bad reviews and bad things on our stuff just because they don't like us, right? So, the mentality of the left. But anyways, to finish off the show, we are going to play Want Your Hands in Mine. This is a Christina Blaze feature with myself. So I wrote the track and I actually did a remix. So it's a remix of a track I did, and it's my remix, right? Again, my music. So I really hope you guys enjoy this. So don't forget, subscribe to our Facebook page. Email me if you have any questions, suggestions, or anything like that. Or if you want to send an EMT donation, you can send that to jason@albertaradio.ca. Right now, we're crowdfunding to move us up to the next level, and we're just trying to figure out a way to bounce back from COVID. Still to this day, I'm one of those individuals who lost everything. I lost my restaurant, I lost my business, and lost my home after the convoy, because the government just didn't care, trying to force me into a tent. That's not happening. But anyways, that's what we're trying to do. So without further ado, this is my newest track, Your Hands in Mine with Christina Sky. It's my own remix. This is the Trance Rebuild. Here you go, here on Alberta Radio.
Empty streets and a midnight park, but your voice was so damn loud. You said, trust me, Felt the pavement under my feet start fading out beneath me. Are we building castles in the sky, stone by stone on borrowed time? If it all falls down tonight, will you still be by my side? Are we chasing something we can't find, or learning how to say goodbye? If it breaks, if it burns, that's fine. I just want your hand in mine. Still be by my side? Are we chasing something we can't find, or learning how to say goodbye? If it breaks, if it burns, that's fine. I just want your hand in mine. Wrap round our heads. If this is just a dream, don't wake me yet. Stone by stone on borrowed time. If it all falls down tonight, will you still be by my side? Are we chasing something we can't find, or learning how to say goodbye? If it breaks, if it burns, that's fine. I just want your hand in mine.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for tuning into the show. Email me, Jason at Alberta Radio, www.albertaradio.ca. Have a great day. God bless.